Hi, same as before, I'm not gonna waste your time and just go straight into the topic. If you haven't watched the last video, you should, because this is basically part 2. So now everybody who is still watching should be more or less on the same page, or not. By making the last video, I wanted to illustrate something, and what could be better than a real-life example? The thing that I'd like to show every artist with half a brain cell and an open mind is simply a huge split between the art community itself. This great chasm that tears the community apart is not traditional versus digital or AI bro versus anti-AI bro. It is something that affects all of them. The AI bros, the anti-AI bros, the traditional ones, and the digital ones, and every other art split community that you can imagine. And this problem has been going on for years. And in some communities, there are artists living in entirely different worlds. They're not even having the same conversation anymore. The thing that I'm talking about is psychology or your mindset. And don't take this the wrong way. I'm not gonna go the way of turn your mindset into a grindset, even though the slogan absolutely slaps in my opinion. I'm talking about new artists that come into a community being psychologically conditioned in either one way or another. And that may sound pretty harsh, but hear me out. 99% of this psychological conditioning is absolutely normal and unintended. It's just human. If I go into a biker gang and become a biker, I will adapt my mindset little by little to fit into the group because I am open and susceptible to it. That doesn't mean that the biker gang is a cult that wants to brainwash me. That is just the human way to find community. You know, even in ancient times when we lived in caves, we did the same. So just to be clear, this is not an affront to any specific art community or the entire art community altogether. It is a problem that I and seemingly a lot of you have observed over the years. And this video's purpose is just to shed a little light on the situation and maybe help to bridge the gap a little bit. Because if you read the title of my last video, this is probably the main purpose why it is impossible to learn drawing nowadays in an online community. Now, the two art bubbles that I'm mainly talking about are, on one hand, the people that want honest and precise criticism in order to improve their art as efficiently as possible. And on the other hand, it's a bubble of probably the vast majority of artists roaming around the internet and on online communities that tend to think that all kinds of encouragement are good and will eventually help the artists that they are encouraging. And the funny thing is that neither of them are wrong, but also neither of them are totally right. Because growth, criticism, and encouragement and happiness are things that shouldn't work against each other. They should be working together. And people can make the arguments about growing makes you happy and getting encouraged makes you grow. And that might be the case, but only for the short term, because in the long run, only getting critiques will burn you out. And in the long run, only getting encouragement will make you stuck at the point where you are. And both of these are absolutely terrible for any artist that is totally in the beginning, or even amateurs that are trying to one-up their art skill. But before I tackle the topic of how do we actually bridge this huge gap between these two bubbles, let's look at how these bubbles actually formed. Because if you're an old fart like me, then you will remember a time where status quo wasn't the case. Hell, in some parts of the world, it seemingly isn't the case now. But let's stay in the majority English-speaking Western hemisphere of the internet, where the majority agrees that beginners have a very rough time learning in online communities, even if they sometimes don't know that themselves. Now, this entire bubble thinking of art and their communities and how you should consume, perceive, and tell people about art has started with the introduction of social media and their algorithms, especially in a time where everybody can check their social media in the blink of an eye and uncheck their social media in the same blink as well, meaning that everybody is so well interconnected with, well, everybody. And all those people are constantly trying to fight for random internet points. And you can say that you post your art because you just like it and you don't really care about the likes or whatever. But for the majority, it is not. And these random and invented internet points are the entire reward structure where these two bubbles have kind of formed around. because these reward structures, the algorithms of social media, they are extremely well designed to find out what a user actually wants to see, keeping them in a space where they will scroll endlessly because they get reaffirmed with their own beliefs over and over again, which means they get conditioned into thinking this is the entire way the art community is. Well, until they find out it isn't. They find out that they were just part of a part of a part. And then the confusion starts. You're either a beginning artist that doesn't know how to draw, and suddenly you're getting overwhelmed by good comments and people who love your art, tricking you into thinking that you've done it. You've achieved art godhood when you haven't, and people were just being nice for the sake of being nice. And the other way around, you can be an artist that kinda knows how to draw, and suddenly everybody starts criticizing you, and you've never had that in your entire life. That is exactly what makes people stop pursuing a hobby, and sometimes even a choice of career. Now, if you don't believe me that these social media algorithms are very predatory and are kind of, better at knowing yourself than you, I've linked an article that's actually quite old by now, where I think a former person that worked at Facebook tells about how their ad algorithm uses their users' emotional state and knows when they're depressed and more susceptible to buying, beauty products. So if you think that Instagram, YouTube, or TikTok isn't feeding you exactly what they think you want and keeping you inside the little bubble that you made for yourself, you're just living in a dreamland. And with these algorithms and these huge social media platforms with millions and, sometimes probably billions of people on them, which are so well made to push your opinion about something into a direction that you already tend to. It was only a matter of time until artists had become so radicalized in their own bubbles that both sides are basically not hearing anything the other side says. And now, in 2026, we are at status quo, where if you do thing number A, then person number B is mad. And if you do thing number B, then person number A is offended. And for people who are just beginning their art adventure, this is poison. Either burnout poison or skill poison. And if you don't believe me, then look at the internet. The evidence is there. How many artists do you see that are mediocre, that are not crazy good, but they're also not bad? It's almost none, at least compared to the masses of people that are either very skilled or people that are, not very skilled. But if you think differently, let me know. But before, let's talk about how to bridge the gap. Because if you've made it this far, it isn't about choosing a side, not about declaring that critique-focused art groups are right and encouragement-focused artists are wrong. And it's definitely not about pretending that every artist secretly wants the same thing, but doesn't say so. The reality that every one of us needs to take to heart is that art is created for different reasons. Some people are trying to become professionals, some are preparing portfolios, and some want to work in games, animation, comics, or illustration, while a different subgroup just enjoys the work of art itself. They don't have goals, and they don't want to be legitimate artists with much renown. They just want to draw for the sake of it. Neither of these are more or less legitimate. The problem starts when we project our ideas of art onto others. That goes for critique giver and also critique receiver. If you posted a picture and somebody criticizes it, but you didn't want that, the right thing to do is not to get offended and block them or argue with them about if that was really morally the right thing to do. That's the kind of stupid discourse on the internet I wish I had time for. But sadly or luckily, I don't. And if you are the one that gave the critique and you find out it was unwanted, then it's also not a good thing to argue about every post on the internet is susceptible to criticism. The greatest thing that inhibits us from helping beginners or from beginners getting actual help is straightforward communication. A good example of that is if some people are buying an art course where you get a feedback session with a professional. Even people that are usually in art communities that are very encouragement based will want to get feedback, and they won't care if it is harsh or not. And it's not because they paid for it. It's because it is what they expected, which means both sides just need to communicate what they expect. And on first glance, this might sound very simple, but since we can't just change our psychology in the blink of an eye, as well as 1,000 other artists in our communities, we will need to start slow, and every little bit counts. If everyone who watches this video does exactly that, 1 time a week, and we do this for an entire year, assuming that many people will see the posts that you people make, this message, not literally, but figuratively through your own words and actions, will have reached millions and billions of people. And all it took was a minimal amount of effort by a few people, slowly molding these communities into something better and something that can actually help people improve and help people be happy with their art at the same time. And with that said, please tell me, what did you think and what are your thoughts going ahead? Even though it doesn't seem that way, because I rarely respond to any comments, I read them all, even the mean ones. Next time, in honor of this and the last video, I will make one about actually giving this kind of critique that people are looking for. One that is harsh and precise and will help you improve, but still nice enough to not offend anyone. A truly constructive criticism. Now, happy drawing and goodbye.